Hi, I'm Sara Shein, and I'm here with Sarah Dohle. She's assistant professor. Hi, Sarah. She's assistant professor at Delaware Valley University, and she is in the Department of Plant Science. And she is here today to talk about a really interesting course she's going to be offering this fall. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, so I'll be teaching a evening course this fall on plant breeding for beginners.
Wait. What is plant breeding?
All right. So plant breeding loosely is the idea where you rub flower parts together, which will form a fruit, and then you plant the seeds, the offspring of that, and you get a whole mix of varieties of what the original parents were, and then you save your favorite variety and save those seeds to replant generation after generation. So you adapt the plants for your garden and your taste, and that's plant breeding. So it's doing crosses and then selecting which plants you want to save for the next generation. So
how many times will your class meet?
This class is going to be offered on Thursday evenings from 6 to 7:30 in November for 3 weeks. So the first week we'll cover squash breeding. The second week we'll do tomatoes and pepper breeding. And then the third week we'll cover bean breeding.
And what can our students expect? What would their outcomes be from something like doing one of these projects?
Okay, well, the dream outcome is that you get your own individual variety of squash, peppers, beans, and tomatoes that are adapted to your home garden and to your family's culinary desires, right? But at the least, you'll be entertained thoroughly for 3 weeks.
Okay. Now, where are we in the life cycle of our garden right now?
So we're in fall. So our vegetable gardens are pretty much closing down for the winter. We have our mature fruits, which contain delicious flesh for us to eat, but also mature seeds on the inside. And the seed is going to be the generation for next year. So at harvest time, we're thinking about seed saving if you're thinking about plant breeding.
And that's what they're going to be doing you'd be describing in class 1?
Yeah, so in class, we'll go over the entire life cycle of the plant from seed that you plant. It grows stems and leaves, produces flower, pollen, and egg. The pollen fertilizes the egg, which causes the seed of the next generation to form. And we'll go through the introductory biology for each of those steps and introductory genetics to understand how you can mix up the genetics so that you could combine maybe a really easy to grow fruit with a really delicious fruit and get something that's both easy to grow and delicious for your home garden. But we'll focus, the hands-on project will be seed harvesting because we have mature fruit to take seeds out of this time of year. And hopefully come July, all of you can be doing crosses on flowers in your own garden next summer.
So what kind of supplies are folks going to need for class 1?
Great. So for the squash class, we'll use squash. For the tomato and pepper class, we'll use tomatoes and peppers. For the beans class, beans, right? So you need your mature produce, right? Mm-hmm. Which you can get from the grocery store or you can get it out of your garden. Both of them are good. Both of them will have viable seeds with some variation to plant from. All right. You will need, if you're using squash, a very sturdy knife to cut through tough squash and a cutting board. Strainer with small enough gauge that you won't lose your seeds. A cup for holding seeds. Spoon and butter knife for scraping. And when we do hot peppers, I recommend wearing gloves so your fingers don't get too spicy. And then you let the seeds dry in an open area and then stick them in an envelope. Any envelope works, and a permanent marker to label your envelope with the year and what seeds you have in there. So that's all we need.
Do folks need to dry out their seeds before they put them away?
They do. So dry seeds store longer and cool seeds store longer. You don't have to store your seeds in the fridge, but just in a cool, dry place. Drying seeds on the countertop is a great place to do it, anywhere that there is good ventilation and that the mice won't get them.
So what are you going to cover in the second class?
Okay, so first class is, each class will run individually, so you'll get enough out of the class. You don't have to do the whole series. And each class will have an introduction to that crop. So first is squash, the 10,000 years history, how domestication happened, current seed industry trends, and the difference between different squash species, because a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin is actually quite different from a butternut. but not too different, right? And then class 2 will go, and the reason we start with squash is because squash are one of the easiest crops to breed because they have separate male and female flowers. And when we're talking about plants, what that means is one flower produces pollen and a different flower produces eggs, right? But it's on the same vine. And if it's a vine grown in the sun, it makes more egg producing flowers. And if it's a vine grown in the shade, it makes more pollen producing flowers. Fun fact.
So
okay.
sex is very important in your class.
Oh, it's very important. And the crazy thing about plants, well, one of them, there's so many crazy things, is that some plants have male parts, some plants have female parts, some plants have hermaphroditic flowers, and some plants—
Oh, cool. Really? They're hermaphrodite plants?
Yeah, so most plants are hermaphrodites because that encourages reproduction. If it can have sex with itself, then it's guaranteed to have an offspring. Having sex with a neighbor is nice because you get more diversity in there. You get the genes being mixed up, and more diversity is great for evolution. But if your neighbor's too far away and you can't have sex with your neighbor, having the fallback where you can have sex with yourself makes it so that you still get to pass your DNA on. So plant sex is wild. We'll go with that. And totally appropriate dinner conversation.
And good for us.
Good, really good for us.
And really good for us. So for humanity, so we can eat.
So then, so that first class we do the squash because the separate flowers make it easy for doing crosses for beginners. Our second class will be tomatoes and peppers, which have the hermaphroditic flowers. And so in order to do those crosses, you need to be careful to remove the male parts. We call it emasculating. You use tweezers to tear off the anthers that produce the pollen so that you can take anthers from a neighboring plant to fertilize your female part. Right? And then our third class will cover beans. Beans are my baby. I think that I'm excited about beans for world peace. They're good for your heart. They're good for the soil. And they also have hermaphroditic flowers. And so we'll cover, we'll learn about the crop. We'll learn about the seed industry around it. And we'll hopefully, over the next few years, make varieties that we can grow here in the Delaware Valley.
And your knowledge is vast. And, I neglected to actually call you Dr. Sara Dohle, correct? And can you tell us a little bit about your background?
So I earned my doctorate studying lima beans, which everyone laughs at, and that's and I think it's great because it's a really approachable field. So I studied lima bean genetics, and specifically trying to understand what part of the lima bean genome helps them to be resistant to insects. Because if we could breed lima beans that were insect resistant, then we could use less pesticides when we grow them. And I like it because once people know I have a PhD in lima beans, they're no longer afraid to ask me questions about genetic engineering or sustainable agriculture or all the other really important things people want to know about, but sometimes are shy to ask if you're talking to a doctor. But a doctor of lima beans is approachable.
And you're going to be encouraging people to ask questions in your class, correct?
Absolutely. The more dialogue, the more conversation, the better. I want the class to be about what students want to learn about. I'm really excited about crop domestication and evolution. I'm really excited about biodiversity in agriculture, and I'm really excited about quality food and helping home growers to make their own. So anything you guys want to learn, I'm here to talk about.
Well, I can go on and on when I have somebody, a guest who is just fascinating, but we probably should draw this to a close. I think we've given people a little bit of a taste. If they would like to learn more, they need to sign up for this class. It sounds fabulous. And tell me again when it's running.
It's running on Thursday afternoons in November from 6 to 7:30 for 3 weeks.
We'll have it in the notes that go with this video.
Yeah, and one more thing to maybe of interest to some people who are joining. So a few summers ago at Del Val, we crossed a hot habanero with a mild habanero pepper. And we got these progeny, which have all these different colors, shapes, and sizes, right, from the same original grandparents. And some of them are hot and some of them are mild. And it's really nice to have a mild habanero because it has that perfumey floral flavor, but not any of the heat. So projects like this is something that you can do in your home garden. So I hope some people get excited about doing that. Thank you so much, Sara. That sounds
delicious. Well, thank you, Sara. And hopefully we'll all see you in class, in Zoom.
Take care.
Bye-bye.